All right, so if you would like to come down to the ground and come into hare pose, so that's, I'm giving it its proper name this morning, it's child pose with the knees wide. So toes touching, knees wide, if that works for you. Finding some way of supporting yourself if your knees don't like it. And coming forwards, you can put your hands under your forehead. If it's possible to have your forehead on the floor, arms open, because we're working on the sides of the body, into the armpits, into the elbows, all the way through the body this morning. So finding, settling, it'll take a while to settle. Finding the best place for you. If there's issues with the fronts of your ankles or anything like that, a slim blanket under the ankles can be quite good. So just make sure there are no creases and work, or even a sock, a couple of socks. If you're having to make any adjustments, do it symmetrically if you can. That's it. Okay, so Rosemary, I can't see you. Your camera's too high. That's it. So deep breaths in, deep breaths out. So there's an awful lot going in to your nervous system right now. The sensations in the joints, but also being aware of, just being aware of the connection with the ground. So you've got that sensation now of the parts of the body that are connecting to the ground. The feeling in the joints. And thinking of your joints as organs. So we sometimes just take our joints for granted. But if you consider your bones, so for example, the leg bones, so the shin bone and the thigh bone, think of them as spaces between your knees and your hips and your ankles at the other end. So if you think of the joints actually as organs in their own right. So they do an awful lot to keep us mobile and hopefully, mostly pain-free. So then thinking about that space between your shoulder blades, so that's starting to, so you're developing awareness of what's going on between your shoulder blades. So you've been talking an awful lot recently about the neck and how it begins down at the tips of your shoulder blades. So in the center of your spine there, level with the tips of your shoulder blades, just like a horse's mane. So thinking about your neck as a horse's mane, and feel the release along the spine from the bottom of your horse's mane all the way up to the base of your skull, even into the crown of your head. Deep breaths in, deep breaths out. So use your mind's eye to look at the back of your body. Look at your pelvis. Look at the way the thighs are moving outwards from the pelvis. So those the organs of your hips just allowing a certain degree of movement there. Feel as though you can breathe into all these spaces. And as you breathe out, there's a real sense of release. So staying with this for a little bit longer, using your mind's eye to watch your back, to feel your back, from sacrum to crown. Every so often, checking in with your jaw, soft jaw, teeth are apart. You can feel, you can hear the breath in your throat. And for just last moment or two in this position, can you be aware of the softness of the front of your body? So the underneath of your body at the moment is your belly, your front ribs, your throat. And can you feel the softness and the rhythm of your breath in the front body? So there's a falling back. So the front body is just falling back towards the spine as you breathe out. So it's not a lifting, even though the belly is under your spine right now. It's a falling back. Another breath in here. If you could anchor your sitting bones towards your heels and uncurl, so you're rounding up into the all fours. So we're uncurling, and as you come towards the all fours, bring your knees in line with your hips. So once you engage the ground in the all fours, look at your hands and look at your elbow creases, rolling your elbow creases forwards, feeling how, if you do that a few times, let your elbow creases roll back and then roll them forwards. They probably don't roll all the way back, mine don't anyway. But just allow yourself to feel what's happening in the shoulder blades. If you bend the elbow points out to the sides and then roll the elbow creases forward, straightening the elbows. So just noticing what's going on in the shoulder blades. And then holding this and begin to round your spine up to the ceiling as you breathe in. So feel that horse's mane. And then as you exhale, release all the way along your thoracic spine. So along the length of your horse's mane, extending as you exhale. So you're rounding up, feeling your neck rounding up to the ceiling as you breathe in, elbow creases stay forwards. And then you exhale the whole length of your neck, that imaginary horse's mane, extending. So you're rounding and releasing, listening to the throat. The most jointed part of your spine is this thoracic spine. So all of those joints, little organs in their own right, along the length of your imaginary horse's mane. Every one of those joints are responding one way or the other. Now, when you're ready, come into neutral and keeping your bottom in the air directly above your knees, you're going to slide your arms forwards until your chest is coming towards the floor and your face is on one side. So rest on one cheekbone. If you're not happy with your arms that far forwards, you can bend the elbows, but don't put them under your face. Just have your hands on the floor above your head. The key is to keep your sitting bones directly above your knees and a bit of pressure onto the cheekbone that you're on. Now, you might feel that the belly is hanging out. You can make it feel like that, but in fact, if you breathe deeply, you'll feel the tone Everybody feeling the length from hips to armpits, up the sides of your body. And you're not necessarily still, but you're waiting. You're waiting for release in the tissues. Everybody turn the face onto the other side. So you've got that heaviness on the other cheekbone. This is actually pathway to your sinuses. So Ronnie, deep breaths in, deep breaths out, really feeling what's connecting you to the ground. Everybody soft throat, soft jaw. And then everybody drawing ourselves up and back into a restful child pose. So restful child pose, you can support your forehead on the two fists. You can have your forehead on the floor, arms by your sides. And when you're ready, can we come back to the all fours? If anybody's got wrist issues, you can always be on your fists. You can still get your elbow creases pointing forwards. So can we bring right hip to right shoulder? So inhale, center, exhale, right hip to right shoulder. Inhale, center, exhale, left hip to left shoulder. So you're making this sort of lizard curve with your spine. You know you're doing it pretty much okay if your thighs don't move. So your thighs stay perpendicular. Your pelvis is the one that's moving. At the other end, your head will be moving, but you're not looking over your shoulder. You're keeping your ears level with a line through the center of your head from ear to ear. Gosh. So right hip, right shoulder, left hip, left shoulder. Big breaths in the middle. Feeling this alternate compression and extension. And then tuck your toes under. When you come back to the middle, tuck your toes under. Bring your hands a little bit nearer your knees. Just give your hands a little bit of a release. You can relax at the wrists a little bit. Toes are tucked under. All we're going to do is keep the elbow creases forwards and lift the knees. So you're resting through the arms, and then put your knees down. Okay. And then we're going to come to sitting. Let's come to sitting for a moment. Just make that a bit nicer. So if you come to seated, I'd like you to bring your fingers in behind the toes of one foot and support the shin with the other foot, with the other hand. So circling the foot at the ankle. And circling in the opposite direction. And then pressing your toes backwards and forwards. So obviously a lot depends. And so you're including your ankle in this. So you're circling in both directions. You're pushing the toes backwards and forwards, including the ankle. And then if you use both hands with your thumbs in the center of your foot, just massage as well as you can with your thumbs around the sole of your foot, your heel, your sole, up to the ball of the foot, base of your toes, up to the tips of your toes. Just massaging up the backs of each of your toes. And then if you come back so that that same foot, the heel is on the floor, get hold of your big toe and your second toe and draw them backwards and forwards. And then your second toe and third toe, just backwards and forwards there. Third toe and fourth toe. And finally, fourth toe and fifth toe. And then all four toes and the big toe separately. So roll the four toes one way, big toe the other way. So backwards and forwards. And finally, so we were doing this, we did do this last week. Just if you run your finger down the outside of your little toe until you feel a bump before you get to the heel. So there's a little bump, and that's the base of your big toe. So if you just tuck the pads of your fingers in and just draw as though you want to draw the big toe away from the the little toe away from the next toe. It's just pressing in there. It's just a sense of making some space. If you use the other hand as well, I hope this is all right for you, Grace. A bit over the top, maybe. Good. And just feeling into that little toe joint and how you can almost make your foot wider. Okay, and then relax that foot. Let's come to the other foot. Fingers in behind the toes. Support the shin with your other hand and circle the foot. And then circle the other way. And then if we press the toes backwards and forwards, including moving the ankle backwards and forwards. That's it. And then let's just support the foot on your thigh. If you can, use your thumbs to massage around the heel, the soft area of the instep, the sole of your foot, coming up the ball of your foot, feeling all of those toes, the base of each toe, massaging up to the tip of each toe. Just a little squeeze. You get the most benefit from doing this regularly, but you really feel the difference when you haven't done it for a while. So if we then come onto the heel of that foot, big toe and second toe, moving backwards and forwards. And then second and third toe. Third and fourth toe. Fourth and fifth toe. All four toes and the big toe separately, and we're moving them backwards and forwards. That's it. Oh, satisfying little click there. Then with your index finger, just run it from the top of your little toe down the outside of your foot till you feel that little bump before it goes in and then out to your heel again. So you've got this little toe bone, put your pads of your fingers in and just, I'm using the other hand to support, And just draw that little toe bone, make some space between that and the next one. There's nothing to stop you putting the pads of all your other fingers, the other hand, into the center of the foot as well. But just feeling this little toe, just giving it some space. And when you've done that, we're going to come up to standing. So bring yourselves into mountain pose. Just adjust your cameras as necessary. So we're working to really be grounded, to feel the feet. If you just move from foot to foot now and spreading all your toes. If you had a blanket under your feet, you'd be scrunching and picking the blanket up. I can see my little toes going out quite a long way. So I'm just rolling around the feet, getting the toes moving and starting to get your feeling into the body right up from the ankles. So moving around the ankles, moving at the knees, moving at the hips. Thinking of these joints as organs and the bones as the spacers. So there's a nice soft circling going on in the hips. And that movement is going on right up through your spine. Keep going in the same direction. And just for a moment, start to bring the backs of the hands up the sides of your body to your armpits. And take your elbows and your hands up above your head. So circling at the hips, but at the same time, feeling right up the sides of your body into the armpits, into your fingers. Let your hips start to circle the other way and keep moving up through the armpits. So when you started in hare pose this morning, and then from here, you circle the hips the other way, just come to stillness, let your hands, backs of your hands come down in front of your chest, and then down by your sides. Feel that dropping of your arms. So you're quite lively from your feet up through the center of your body. And in hare pose, we were working on your neck, and your neck actually begins down at the top of your pelvis, at the back of your pelvis. So although I said it begins down at the bottom of your shoulder blades, it continues to go down through different tissues to the top of your pelvis, your shoulders as well. So if we bring the backs of the hands to the sides of the body, run them up the sides of the body into the armpits. So elbow points are lifting. And noticing your breath, so the rib cage is expanding, and run your hands upwards, fingers still dripping, but the elbows keep lifting. And then the arms up above your head, soft fingers facing you, facing each other across the top of your head. So feel from the top of your hips, the sides of your body, right up into your armpits. And how your shoulders are sliding back down. You're not lifting them out of their sockets. Deep breaths. So there's an awful lot of joint in the area that we're working on. Turn your palms out, release your arms out to the sides. And bring your arms across the center. Cross your right arm above your left. Hold your shoulders. So giving yourself a hug. Feel your shoulders. Deep breaths in, deep breaths out. Bring your forearms upright. You can have your hands back to back, or you can fit the underneath fingers into the top palm. Keep the elbow lifted. Deep breaths in, deep breaths out. So, depending on your shoulders, you can either go back to having the hands on the shoulders or keep the arms in this position. Soften your knees, chin on the chest, and start to roll down your spine. So feeling the flexion as you roll. Keep your head and jaw relaxed. And don't go too far. I wouldn't want your elbows to go much further than your knees. And just standing there, feeling the support of your legs. That's it. And the deep breaths into the back body. Big deep breaths in, deep breaths out. And then press into your feet and begin to come back up. So as you go down through the feet, you gradually unwind into standing up. Coming right up here, back to neutral. So elbows more or less level with the top of your collarbones. Bring your fingers onto the shoulders again. Slide your hands towards the elbows and bring the forearms up above your head. So you've got deep breaths in here, deep breaths out. So slide your fingers towards each other above your head, fingertips and thumbs touching. And another deep breath in up there. Let your arms come out to shoulder height. Keep your palms turned up this time, so it's very soft. Feeling from your armpits into your wrists. We're going to bring left arm above the right, so folding into the center. Fingers to the outsides of your shoulders and feel into your shoulders. Just, you can have a little massage there with your fingers, just massaging around. And then bring your forearms upright, hands back to back or fitting into each other. So again, you're still very aware of your feet, soft knees, chin on the chest as you start to roll down. Listening to your breath, so don't lose the sound of your breath. That's it. Soft neck, soft jaw. So staying with that. Another deep breath in down there. Press into the feet and begin to uncurl. So as you uncurl, coming right up here, elbows level with your collarbones. Fingers to the shoulders again. So just sliding your hands towards the elbows. You can do a little bit of massaging if that's nice, squeezing and holding. Holding the elbows, bring the arms above your head. And massaging towards the wrists and then the hands, fingertips touching as you go back up above your head. Just one thing before we bring the arms down. Can you just sense the base of your skull? So that part of your skull from ear to ear across the bottom there, and feel as though it's dropping towards the bottom of your shoulders. So then fingers, palms up as you bring the arms out to the side. So it's as though you're still supporting something with your hands softly. Deep breaths in, deep breaths out. Feel your shoulders relaxing, and then bringing the hands onto your heart. So one hand on your chest and the other. Just holding the awareness at your heart space. So there's as much pressure, as much or as little pressure as you like. Just checking in with your feet, your legs, your buttocks. Relax the buttocks. Just noticing everything about what's going on right here, right now. So if you let the hands release down by your sides, let's take the feet a little bit wider than the hips. So everybody will have a width that works for them, but not too wide. Can you turn your left toes in, keeping that space between the toes, and your right toes out? This is You start off with both legs straight. We're going to transfer the weight onto the ball of the front foot, the whole of the front foot and the ball of the back foot. So the back heel lifts. And then you come back onto the back heel and the front part of the front foot lifts. You're still on the heel. So moving between. At the back knee, as you go back, the back knee bends. The knee is going over its toes. So, I think probably you're just transferring weight onto the back heel, knee bent, and then onto the front foot, back heel lifted. Let your arms start to float as you go forwards and back. Listening to your breath. So there's a lot of sort of balance going on here. Inhaling, exhaling. So you're very aware of transferring weight between heels and the balls of the feet. And softness in your shoulders. Just checking that the back knee, when you go back and it bends, the weight is going down through the heel. Your sitting bone is directly above the heel. As you go back. The next time that you come back onto your back heel, resting there, pivot your front foot in and pivot your front foot right in and pivot that back foot now becomes your front foot. Might have gone too far. So get your balance here. Both legs are straight to start with, just feeling yourself ready for the second side. So as you lift the back heel, transferring weight forwards, just coming there. And then as you go back, back knee bends, front of the front foot lifts. So just this movement and let your arms start to come in. Staying with your breath. I'm looking at you, but if you look along to the fingers of your front arm each time. Keep that front foot, front leg straight all the time, that's it. It's quite an interesting thought, if there's any space for thought, that when you go back and your back knee is bent, your sitting bone on that side and your heel, they're completely in line. There's a perpendicular line between the sitting bone and the heel. If there's any space for you to think about that. So it's almost as though you're sitting down with your back leg a little. And then when you come onto your back heel this time, just hold it. There's quite a lot of strength coming in here. Pivot the front foot back to neutral. Both feet are slightly turned in, as you might want to adjust slightly as we just bend the knees, come into a goddess pose. So knees following your second toes. So go as wide or as narrow as works for you. Bring your elbows level with your shoulders. Soft fingers. As you exhale, fingers down. Inhaling up. So we're actually thinking about the shoulders being organs of movement. very much attached into your back. But those shoulder blades, they've got lots of fluid between them and the ribs, so they slide on your shoulders. The next time that you bring your arms down, straighten your knees and bring yourself back into mountain pose. So we'll step the feet back together. So if you stand in mountain pose, close your eyes or have that soft gaze. And be aware of the corners of your feet. So just in your mind's eye, base of your big toe, base of your little toe, outer heel, inner heel. Just being aware of those connections. So we are going to come down into the squat. So you either will all roll down, we're all going to roll, and soft knees. So start off just by rolling, arms hanging, head hanging. Once you have got your fingers on the floor, just hang there for a moment. So your knees might be quite bent, that's fine. Think about your sitting bones, they're going up in the air, but there's a line between them and your heels. Big breaths in, big breaths out. Then with your fingertips on the floor, if you're squatting, turn your toes out and drop into the squat and swing from foot to foot. If you're not squatting, you can come into the lunge. We're all going to do the lunge in a minute, but you can do the lunge and keep on squatting. So those of you that are squatting, you might notice how your sitting bone and your heel on the same side come close to each other. So just noticing that sitting bone and the heel are always pretty much one above the other. If you're doing the lunge, make sure you've swapped to the other side. And we're going to, from either the lunge or the squat, just coming back onto the floor and coming into Shavasana. Could you put your cameras down before you go down? So coming down into Shavasana. Okay. Just give yourself a moment in Shavasana. So just let the floor take the energy. Just sliding there. So feeling that softness through the body. Softness in your feet. You've got the connection points of your heels. Feet are soft, just let them fall apart. Little toes falling towards the ground. Being aware of how you've placed the calves, or the calves have landed, in fact. Just notice that. Your thighs, pelvis. So right buttock, left buttock. The whole of your spine, just noticing those connection points, the spaces. Noticing your shoulder blades. So how they've landed and the way you've placed your arms. Turning the palms up so the little finger side lifts. You feel the shoulder blades dropping a little bit closer to the ground as the little finger side lifts. And then come to the back of your neck, the throat, the jaw, and a line from ear to ear across the back of your skull. So thinking about the base of your skull, no creases. Feel the pressure on the back of your head. Be aware of the crown of your head. Be aware of your face, the face falling back. Eyes falling back in their sockets. Take 2 or 3 very deep breaths in and 2 or 3 deep breaths out. And then bringing your knees over the front of your body. Just hug your knees to you. So hugging the knees, just drawing them close. Maybe a little rock from side to side, not much. And then bring your feet to the floor with your knees bent. And feel that you've got your heels turned out a little. Toes turned in. So you're very aware of the outer edge of each foot, so the little toe side. And as soon as you start to press down through the heels and the little toes, you feel the response in your pelvis. I'm feeling a response in my arms as well. The backs of the hands are coming together over the front of my body. Elbow points dropping back to the floor by my ears. They're not going to the floor actually. And the more I go down through the outer edges of my feet, heels and little toe side, the lighter the pelvis gets. And almost, well, pretty much without even thinking, my torso has come up. My arms are still floating back to the ground overhead. They don't have to go on the ground. You can let them hover. So very important to feel the outer edges of your heels and the outer edges of your toes. Feel that slight pigeon-toed sensation, although your toes themselves are relaxed. This is important for the knees as well as the feet. So just let yourself hang there. So it's a sort of hanging bridge. Noticing that you haven't interfered with the breathing, nothing stopped you breathing fully, completely. There's a real sense of release. So keeping the awareness of the heels and the outer edges of your feet, the little toe side. You can start to let the weight transfer back down towards your pelvis. And you might feel the arms want to come back down. They want to float down the way they went up. So you gradually unfold your arms. Elbows come down. Palms turn up as they reach the floor. The whole of the back settling. So any adjustments that you feel you'd like to make to your feet, if you want to bring the knees over again and hug them and then put the feet back down, or just simply you do whatever works. So finding that groundedness, backs of the hands together somewhere above the center of your chest. So taking the feet back down, if that works for you. Feel the outer edges. Starting to go down through the feet until your pelvis gets lighter and lighter. You can feel without any effort that the torso is coming up. Arms are going back and up. Just feeling as though you're hanging. So as you breathe out, there's no rush. Just go lazily to the end of the out breath. Don't rush to bring the new in breath in. Feel the belly falling back into the pelvis area. The breath in will come in soon enough. It's almost as though you're getting out of the way of deliberate breathing and just letting the body decide on its breath. And just finding the way back to the ground, transferring the weight back down again. Feeling that settling back, arms releasing. So maybe hugging your knees again. And with your knees being hugged, just let go of hugging them, but keep the knees over the front body. Take your arms up to the ceiling so they're balanced above your shoulders. Very soft fingers, wrists and elbows. Being aware of the weight of your shoulders, the pressure, even pressure under your shoulder blades. And let your knees start to drift to the right as you breathe out, without changing pressure under either of your shoulder blades. Inhale back to center and let the knees drift to the left. So the knees are drifting. I'm using that word so that it's not so much a doing as you know they're moving. The doing is more about the pressure under your shoulders. That doesn't change. So there's no way that I'd want my feet and knees to be close. I'm letting them really just drift apart, but they're both going in the same direction. And focus is on the pressure under the shoulders. So I'm deliberately trying to stay quiet so you really hear the sensations. Whatever's coming to you. No instructions. And then when your knees drift to the right next time, you could allow both arms to go all the way to the left. So the right arm won't go that far, but the left arm will go out. Maybe the right hand will be on your chest. And then you can come back up to center. Let the knees drift all the way to the other side, left. The arms will go, your head will turn to the right. So now the underneath arm is in full contact with the floor, coming back up to center, looking along. I'm keeping my eyes closed actually. And the top hand is just coming to rest somewhere on my chest or the other shoulder. If it's getting a bit much to have the knees over the chest, you can start to do this with the feet on the floor, knees wider or feet wider than the hips. But the arms still traveling up to the ceiling at the center, and then traveling to the opposite way to the knees on the out breath. So now your head is rolling. The pressure is changing onto your shoulders, but not massively. You're getting a different sensation, but it's just coming out of the last sensation. And then when you take your knees and your arms back to center this time, pausing, and bring your knees up if you put them down, roll onto one side, bring yourself slowly up to sitting. So you come up slowly to sitting, and because of all that rolling, just being aware of just being balanced, being grounded, feeling the two sitting bones, feeling your heels. So I'd like you to put on your socks and tops so that we can sit comfortably, have everything ready for relaxation, but we're going to be seated a little bit. You can sit on your bolsters. But make sure you're going to be warm. In fact, I think I'll put on my top. So getting a comfortable seated position, one that you can hold for a little while, and definitely being warm. So turn your palms up. Gosh, I'm having trouble dressing myself. Have your palms turned up on your knees. So whether your legs are straight or crossed. And then fold your fingers into the palms. So your thumbs are sticking out to this, and turn your palms down. So thumbs are sticking out, but then turn your palms down, thumbs are pointing in towards each other. So I think I made that quite complicated. You've just fingers in and thumbs pointing. Close your eyes. Notice deep breaths in, deep breaths out. At the end of your next out breath, keep your fists, the fingers into the palms, but just turn your thumbs to point straight up to the ceiling. Closing your eyes, going back to deep breaths in and deep breaths out. At the end of your next out breath, just roll the backs of the hands onto your knees. Thumbs will be pointing outwards. And deep breaths in and deep breaths out. And at the end of the next out breath, relax. So I gave you no instructions apart from to do with the shape of the movements of the hands, mudras, in fact. So I'm not sure if you would have felt, or if you were noticing the change in where you were breathing. So this is Merudanda Mudra. And if we start from the beginning again, so palms, your fists are down, thumbs pointing into the middle. This really relaxes your shoulders anyway. Can you notice the breath mainly in your belly? So deep breaths in, deep breaths out. So belly and pelvic floor. The thumbs are completely straight, pointing in towards each other. So abdominal breaths. The focus is in the belly and around the pelvic floor. At the end of your next out breath, just turn your thumbs to point straight up. And almost immediately you get more sensation in your low ribs. So chest breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. It's almost as though your belly is held in a little. And your chest, your low ribs, very much more expansive as you breathe in. You're feeling the expansion and the movement as you breathe out. You're still noticing that there's softness in your shoulders. So when you turn the palms, the fists up and the thumbs out, there's a big contrast between the last two breaths, because now the breath is constrained a little bit more into the very top chest, around your collarbones. So it's a little bit more restricted. If you relax your hands and open the palms, put your thumbs in the middle and fold your fingers lightly over the thumbs. Bring the backs of your knuckles together. Just put them at the very base, that soft bit at the base of your ribs. And when you breathe in now, it's as though you're breathing in through the full range from belly to chest to top chest. And when you breathe out, you're breathing out again from belly to chest to top chest. So the hands lightly resting at this point, they just keep the verticality, if you like, the uprightness. And now full deep breaths in and full deep breaths out. And still your shoulders soft, melting away from your ears. You haven't tensed them. Be aware of the full range of your breath, belly, chest, top chest, as you breathe in and breathe out. So another full round of in-breath and out-breath. And then just allow your hands to release, palms up on your knees. Keep your eyes closed for a bit longer, soft fingers. So now your focus is drawn to the base of your throat, the sound of your breath. So keep that focus at the base of your throat and resting back over your bolsters for relaxation. So use your supports, eye pillows, whatever you'd like, just to be as comfortable as you can be. And as soon as you come to the ground and you're aware of all those contact points, the body begins to settle, come into stillness and steadiness. So this is a stillness without tension. There's no tension, just simply an awareness of being steady and quiet. And as the body settles and becomes quiet, so the mind begins to settle and quieten. And this quietness is reflected in the breathing. So the quietness of the body and the mind, and the quietness of the breath. There's an interplay between the three elements of relaxation. And for a moment, become aware of all sensations coming to you from your surroundings. Sense impressions coming to you from your surroundings. And now draw your awareness back to the body, the quietness, the stillness. And as a witness to your body, to your breath, just ask what's going on here, now. So this is your experience right here, right now, without any judgment. And start to become aware, to acknowledge your thoughts. Without engaging, just watch your thoughts. Imagine that they're fluffy white clouds passing across a clear blue sky and out of sight. So each of your thoughts as it arises, acknowledge it, watch it without engagement, and see it just pass over and out of sight. Let's continue to watch the thoughts as they arise, passing over a clear blue sky and out of sight.
So continue to follow your thoughts across a clear blue sky. Watch them pass out of sight. Creating thoughts, noticing any satellite thoughts. And consciously disposing of thoughts, letting them move out of sight and away into the far distance of a clear blue sky. Sometimes you can label your thoughts as past memories, the present, the future, imagining. Continue to dispose of your thoughts, leaving behind a clear blue sky. Until there is simply breath. An inner stillness. And now just imagining a thumb pressing lightly between the eyebrows, the third eye. Gentle pressure, bringing you back into awareness of the physical body. And this practice is over. Just allow the breath to deepen, to become louder. Full deep in-breaths, long deep exhales. Whole body responding to deepening breath. Feel yourself starting to move at the fingers and toes. Deep, full inhales. Long, deep exhales. Expanding into the fingertips, into the toes, moving, rolling the head. You can reach out through the whole body, and eventually you can draw the knees in and hug the body. So take your time. And when you hug your knees, rolling a little, appreciating your body. When you roll onto one side, just feel the support of the floor on that side. Spend a few moments on the side, simply being aware of coming back into the body, into the space, thanking the body for being with you right here, right now.